Hello my geeky guys and gals, how are we doing today? Hope you're good, because I'm not. After days and days and nearly about a week and a half of trying to play around with Sniper Elite V2, it just didn't want to work. The video output was shit. The capture came back alright, it's just for some whatever reason Adobe Premiere just did not want to play it. And last night I got so upset with the damn thing that I even managed to destroy my gaming mouse. Yeah. I can get quite frustrated at times. So in the end I've given up on Sniper Elite V2, it just didn't want to play at all, so I'm going to have to give that one a miss. Sorry my geeky guys and gals, that's not going to come up on Facebook. Facebook? No, not on Facebook, I'm out. It's not going to come up on YouTube. Yeah, this is how depressed I am with this thing. This little thing I hold in my hand, little LED thing there. Can you see that? That's the remnants of my gaming mouse. So, what I'm doing now instead is I'm doing a quick little, well it's not quick, it's about 80 minutes long actually, but I'm doing a video now on Command and Conquer. Not a new one, the old games, from the very first up to Command and Conquer General 0 Hour. Because it's a classic game, it's a brilliant game, I love it to bits and I just can't stop playing it, even today. Now, it took somewhat getting the game to work on my computer because it's a 64-bit Windows 7 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Anything with more than 4 gigabytes on a 64-bit system, the game just does not want to play. Now, if you want to do that and you can't figure out how to get the game to play and you've got it, I'll post a description. I'll post how to do it in the description below. And I'll also copy in the text file and what you need to do to get it up and running on your machine. Now this is done with 0 Hour, but it also even works with the original Generals as well. I'm not going to be doing Generals 2 because that's an online game only, and I'm not one of these online type of gamers. I was born in the computer age of Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis and all that. So I'm in it for the single player experience, I don't do this online crap. Anyway, this is Command and Conquer for you. Enjoy! Okay, so here we go, this is Command and Conquer from EA. Specifically, as you can see on this opening introduction, is the 0 Hour add-on for Generals. Now the Generals franchise is the first Command and Conquer in a true 3D environment. All the previous ones, with the exception to Renegade, was rendered in an isometric 2D game world. Now it did have elevation to it, but you know, in an isometric view it was pretty poorly rendered, but good enough at least to show you where your units can and can't go. Back in those good old days as well, EA Games was actually Westwood Studios, and that's where most of those games were published through, until Generals came around and kicking. Now the biggest difference from Generals in comparison to all the other Command and Conquer games, again with exception to Renegade, is that this is the first game to actually use resource piles to gather your money. There's no Tiberium in this, it's all kind of realistic money, it's all expressed in dollar signs. You get resource piles like that, which you just seen, and you've got to place a resource center to collect it. And additional ways of getting money in is by capturing oil derricks and using your own special factions, additional way of getting money. In the original Generals you've got 3 factions. Instead of the GDI and Nod, you've got the USA, China and GLA. Now each faction has got its own different technologies. The USA, for example, is all based upon high-tech weaponry. The Chinese is all about military brute force, so you've got massive overlord tanks. and the GLA is all about hit and run guerrilla tactics, so units can be produced very cheaply and cost effectively, but on the downside they're not very well armoured, so you need a lot of them to take on the additional 2 armies. What else is there? Yeah, for getting additional resources on the USA side, you use supply drops, where I think you get about 2 to 3 grand for every supply drop, which comes through every 2 minutes. The Chinese, it uses hackers, where you get $5 per second per hacker, and as their experience grows they go up to a maximum of $10 per second per hacker. And the GLA utilises the black market, where you get $20 every couple of seconds. I think it's every 3, maybe 5 seconds, I'm not too sure. The 0 hour mod, however, adds a brilliant wide wealth of new features. For each faction you get 3 different sub-factions. So for the USA you've got the Air Force General, which deals with a lot of power within the Air Force. So like the Raptor, the standard Raptor only has 4 missiles, whereas the Air Force General Raptor has 8 missiles, and boy can they cause a lot of damage. You've got the Laser General for the USA as well, where most of its weaponry is turned into lasers. Its base defences are all lasers, and its Crusader tank has its main mass weaponry converted into a laser weapon. That's the only main tank though, you don't get the massive Paladin tanks of the USA Army. And finally you've got the Super Weapon General for the USA. Now there's no tanks at all with her, no Crusaders, no Paladins or anything like that. Your main ground assault for armour is the Humvee. In my personal experience when playing as the Super Weapon General is to get a load of Humvees, stick 4 rocket troopers in each one and a sniper, as each Humvee has got space for 5 infantry. Excuse me, I've got hiccups here, just having lunch. Yeah, so you get 1 sniper and 5 rocket troopers in 1 Humvee, and get about 10 or so Humvees, and they can rip through a lot of enemy army. Really. Infantry is just going to be wiped off the map. And armour, if they're in small groups, they don't stand a chance. Onto the Chinese sub-factions, you've got the Nuke General, where their MiGs gets upgraded to 5 miniature nukes. Very, very destructive. If you're not careful using the nuke with a MiG, you can take out your own MiGs with that. It is that powerful. You've also got the Infantry General, which is the only vehicle that they really have is the armoured personnel carrier. But the infantry can fire the weapons out the window of that, unlike all other Chinese sub-factions. They can't, it's just a transport for them. You've got an MCV tank as well, which is like a mobile EMP weapon which can disable buildings and other armour. And finally for the GLA, finally for the Chinese, you've also got the Tank General, which for me is personally my own best, because you get the Emperor Overlord tank. The difference between the original Overlord compared to the Emperor is with the Overlord, you've only got 1 upgrade option on there, and you can choose between a propaganda tower, a minigun turret, or a bunker. And the bunker can also house 5 infantry inside as well, but you don't get any snipers with the Chinese, so you know you've got to take a pick there. The Emperor Overlord, however, it's got the propaganda tower built into it. You don't have an option for the bunker, because then you can't have the propaganda tower. You've got no option for that anyway. The propaganda tower is built in, you have to have it. The only upgrade to it is the Gatling turret, as you can see on there, with this massive platoon of tanks coming forward to demolish a couple of houses. Yeah, so the Emperor Overlord, they're good in taking out a lot army, infantry, even aircraft with the Gatlings. If you don't upgrade the Emperor Overlord with Gatlings, they can't have any anti-aircraft weaponry at all. So they are susceptible to that. But they are insanely powerful. And onto the GLA factions, some factions even. You've got the Stealth General, where every single unit and every single building can be cloaked from normal view. Any enemy unit can see stealth, though we're obviously going to see them, but it's quite handy because you can pretty much cloak your entire base from the map. Makes it all that much more harder for the enemy to find you, especially if you're fighting against other humans. The computer, they always just know where you are anyway. You've also got the Toxin General, where most of the weaponry is now turned into toxin-based weaponry, and if you upgrade that to Gamma Toxin, it becomes very, very powerful to both infantry, deadly to infantry, but it's also deadly to army as well. With enough units, take out armor as well with the GLA. And last but not least, we've got the Demolition General as well. And with the Demolition General, most units, I think probably if not all units, have a demolition option where it's just a pack of explosives strapped to them, and if your unit can't take out the enemy using conventional ways, blow them up. Simple as that. Hence why guerrilla hit and run tactics. So there's quite a few variety in the 0 Hour add-on, which I absolutely love, and even to this day I still like to play it because you get a few extra features which you don't get in the original Generals as well. Throughout this video, I'm not sure if you saw, but every now and again you can see a white circle come up on the map on the ground. If you double click on a map with units selected, that's a double click auto guard. The units will move there and will guard that area. As soon as enemies come within the guard radius or the firing line of their weapon, they'll move to intercept the enemy automatically. You don't need to do anything, which is really, really handy. In the original Generals, you don't have that option. You've got to click the guard button and then click the map where you want them to guard. Here, it's just double click and you're done. You can forget about them unless they're absolutely being hammered by the enemy. So yeah, I really, really love this game. Now, it first came out, I think the original standalone Generals came out, I think about 2000. Windows 98 was in its dying days, but still widely popular. Windows 2000 and ME was out there, but they were absolutely ridiculous operating systems. XP was on its final plan to be released, and Generals was compatible with XP. So, the first decade, I can't remember when exactly that came out, but that was still based upon Windows 98/XP technology. So if you had that system, you would not have a problem with running this game. Here I'm running this on my Windows 7 64-bit machine, and it took a while to get it running because if you've got a 64-bit machine with more than 4 GB of memory, without any modification this game will just refuse to play. For some reason it brings up an error message saying not enough memory. The only way I managed to get this to work was to manually edit an option file and to change it that way. It was based upon updates in the 0 Hour option file, but copying this text into the original Generals option file as well gets that game running. All the add-ons within the option file that only supports 0 Hour will just be ignored by Generals, so it will work for them both. And what I'll do for you, my friendly little geeky guys and gals, is I'll put the full text into the description of the video, and I'll show you how to, I'll tell you how to update the options file after install in order to get the game running if you've been having problems. Now I don't know how much it is because I've had this for a very, very long time now, but I'm sure you can pick this up dirt cheap now from Amazon, and I very, very much recommend to go and get it. Since release of this, however, EA has also released the Command & Conquer Ultimate Edition. Excuse me, another hiccup. I can't speak properly with these damn hiccups. So yeah, as I was saying, EA's released the Ultimate Edition of Command & Conquer, which is essentially the first decade plus Command & Conquer 3. I think it includes the Kane's Wrath Edition as well, where you get extra sub-factions on there within the Ultimate Edition. I don't know, I'm going to have to check that out. But that brings every single Command & Conquer game at that time available on one disc. And then obviously they've released Red Alert 3 and all the other gubbins as well, and Command & Conquer 4, which I hate because they just changed the entire mechanics of the game. Playing that game. But yeah, if you get first decade or the Ultimate Edition, at least have a go at Generals, because it is bloody brilliant. You get all different types of upgrades. I mean, if you've got a modern system now, it's going to run very, very good on there now. I've even tweaked the options file where I can run this game in full 1080p higher definition resolution. The game itself doesn't support widescreen, let alone HD, so you can even change the options file to see that as well. You put in the resolution manually and it'll still run. This is 1080p running, as you see. It's really good. You've got to be careful though with the options file. If you're having a tweak with that, I recommend you do a backup first before you mess around with it, because if it doesn't work, the game just will not start. I think you can delete it and the game will then create its own. I'm not sure, so just be careful on that one. And one other final thing to mention about this game is its music score. It is fantastic. Now in the title screen introduction, comes in straight away with a roaring bass amplified music score, and if you start the super weapon general, no wait, if you play as the tank general, I think the super weapon general is your first enemy. I can't remember which one it is though, but as soon as you get the super weapon general as your enemy, as soon as the map loads in and she starts firing off a particle cannon at you, you get that music score straight away. And there's just times when I just turn off the sound effects of the game and just listen to the music and just hear myself. It's just absolutely roaring. I love it to bits. I love this game. I'm going to stop talking for about 2 minutes to let you listen to the music track and see what you think. Skip ahead to 17 minutes if you don't want to listen to it. There we go, what do you think to that? That's the USA theme. Absolutely stormy in my view. Now again, each faction has got its own music style, and they're pretty good to listen to as well, because it gets you really involved with the faction you play. It's like the GLA side, their themes deal with a lot of pamphlet type music, give it that Middle Eastern feel. One thing to mention about the GLA side as well, apart from supporting roles like the reinforcement pad and calling in extra tanks, they get flown in. But apart from that, the GLA side has no aircraft of their own. The only way to get aircraft is to excuse me again, these hiccups are killing me. Yeah, the only way for the GLA side to have offensive aircraft, and I don't mean by flying by and giving you the finger, I'm talking about aircraft which can actually fire upon your enemy, is to take over an enemy faction that does have aircraft by capturing either an airfield or the barracks or the command centre, so you can start building your own. It is really, really good. I cannot recommend this game enough. Now, I'm going to leave you again now. I'm going to let you listen to a little bit more music score, but if you don't want to listen to any more, then that's it. It's the end of the video, and I shall see you next time, my geeky guys and gals. But I'm going to leave this playing for about another minute or so. Peace out, and victory!